love lives here.
And now let me tell you about our guest speaker. Some of you may have heard her a couple of weeks ago, but I'm going to introduce her again. Please help me welcome Reverend Veronica Silva. Reverend Veronica has been a Science of Mind practitioner since 2003 and became a licensed minister in October of 2020. She completed her master's degree in spiritual consciousness from the Holmes Institute of Consciousness Studies in 2021. She is a staff minister at Namaste Center for Spiritual Living in Long Beach, California. Veronica is a strong believer in the power of prayer, and she loves praying with people and seeing the results of prayer manifest as life itself. Veronica has been sober for the past 26 years and takes life on one day at a time. She also is very proud of becoming a registered nurse 14 years ago at the age of 44. She served as a charge nurse on the COVID unit in 2020 and 2021. It was the most challenging time that Veronica has faced on her Science of Mind journey. She could not have made it without her meditation practice and many spiritual tools she has picked up along the way. Her favorite things to do are pray, meditate, snow, ski, and laugh with her friends and family. Veronica's motto is, "When you can see God in everyone and everything, life becomes magical." So let's have Veronica give us her talk.
Good morning, Riverside. So good to be back. So good to be back. And I'm not sure if our musicians can hear me or not, but let's give them some love. That was amazing. Yes. Yes. Opened my heart, woke me up, got me moving. So I really appreciate their love and their service through music. So we're here today speaking about, the 15 commitments of leadership. Reverend Jeff left this book, this beautiful book with us to share and to study together. And this week we are on commitment number 3. And I don't know if we have the slide. Do we have the slide for commitment 3? Awesome. So the commitment number 3 is, I commit to feeling my feelings all the way through to completion. They come and I locate them in my body. They move, breathe, and vocalize, so they release all the way through. So this is the above the line. The book speaks about above the line consciousness and below the line consciousness. And so this is the above the line consciousness talking about feelings. And Ernest Holmes didn't talk much about our feelings, did he? No, he was an absolutist. He talked about the truth of the matter, and that's the way it is. And that's great. We need that. We need that truth running through us. And he also says, change your thinking, change your life. Yes, change your thinking, change your life. And so what I know about feelings is when I have certain thoughts, they bring about certain feelings in my body, in my mind, do they not? And so one of the things that we can, ways that we can change our feelings is through changing our thinking. And a lot of times feelings, sometimes they're not always honored, right? Sometimes when we want to cry, I know when I was brought up, it was not like, there wasn't a safe place to cry. So I never knew when to cry or how to express my feelings. And as well as anger. I couldn't get angry in my house. It wasn't allowed. And so I didn't know what to do with my feelings. And so, unfortunately, most of the time I stuffed them down. And maybe some of you might be able to relate with that. And it didn't really serve me very well. It cost me a lot of money in therapy to work with all those feelings that I had shoved down inside. And it also took a lot of prayer and connection with the truth of really who I am and recognizing the truth of who I am to help me work through the feelings that I never really learned what to do with them. And what I like about this book is it's teaching leaders. The book is a leadership book. And I just want to say that we are all leaders. So I would prefer that you don't say, oh, it's for leaders, that's not me. Because somewhere in our life, we are leaders, whether it's in our home or somewhere we take a leadership role. So when we talk about feelings, the below the line, the unconscious way to handle feelings is that the emotions or the feelings have us. They have us. The feelings are in control. The above the line is that I have emotions and they move through me. Because everything in this universe is in constant motion, is it not? Everything's moving. And including feelings, if we learn how to let them move through us. Because they're there for a reason. Yes, they're there. They're God-given feelings and emotions. So why are we having them? They are signposts. They are signposts. Sadness tells a leader that something needs to be let go of. And below the line, sadness is connected to poor me or suffering. Fear tells a leader that fear tells a leader what's important to them or something that is not being faced. And toxic fear, which is below the line, is almost always about a made-up future state. When we're in fear, we're thinking about a made-up future state. Anger shows also what's important to you and that something is not in alignment and needs to be changed. Anger below the line looks like blame, righteousness, and criticism. Joy tells a leader that something or someone needs to be celebrated, appreciated, or maybe we need to laugh. Joy below the line looks like circumstantial happiness, meaning that I cannot be happy unless something outside of myself changes, or someone outside of myself. Anybody know about that? I am happy because of something outside of myself. And so then the author also talks about sexual energy and as a form of creativity and creation. You know, our second chakra is the creative chakra, and so sometimes we think about sexual energy in a dark way, but it is a creative energy as well. And so our emotions are a record. They're they're taking score, if you will. It's a record of our past because that's how we learned how to feel from past experience and past hurts and past joys as well. They are an end product of our past experience. For instance, I was in high school and my first love of my life, I got my heart broken. Anybody have that happen in high school, right? Did I forget that? Here I am 30-something years later telling the story about my first heartbreak because it had that impact on me. And then what do we do? We make a decision. I'm never going to trust this, that, or the other. And we have this decision. And then we go into our next relationship and we bring all of that baggage with us, yes? And we start having emotions because we start becoming afraid because we think it's going to happen again. So we bring it all with us because it gets stuck. It gets stuck in our body. And because we're never taught how to move through our emotions. And so then life becomes familiar because we start having the same patterns. How many, I have had patterns, repeat, wash, rinse, and repeat, right? The same patterns come up. Different person, different scenario, different job, same pattern. Why? Because I am the common denominator. I'm the common denominator of my feelings and my experiences. And so I get stuck. Sometimes I get stuck in a cycle. And then I start, because it looks familiar, I start living not from creation, but from survival. Because I can't break the cycle. I can't break the loop. I'm like stuck in it over and over again. I had that with jobs. I was stuck in the job cycle where I was unhappy every time with my boss. Every time. And I was the common denominator, right? In my relationships, I would leave relationships because of them, because of this. The common denominator. And the feelings were the same. The feelings I had about my boss was the same, each boss. The feelings I had about my significant other were the same. It was always about me pointing outward. And one thing we remember, if you remember in our commitment number 1, when Jesse and I were here, we talked about taking radical responsibility. Well, that meant no longer blaming and being absolutely responsible for my life and being absolutely responsible for my feelings. Yes. Wow, that's a next level, right? That's a next level request here. And I know, because we're all here in this building listening, whether it's in this building or online, that we're here for a reason, that we're meant to hear this information. There's no mistakes. So how do we get past these emotions that either get stuck in us, or we don't, have outbursts because we don't know how to manage them? How do we get past our emotions and thus move past our past? They're connected. They're connected. We keep bringing our past with us, dragging it along with us, and it shows up in our future because we haven't moved through it. And so that's why I kept having these repetitive patterns, and my future kept looking the same. I was like, darn it. So then one of the ways that we can do that is to move through the feelings. Allow the feelings to move through us rather than letting them get stuck and we get stuck in the cycle. And I like the idea, the pattern that the book shows us, which is, 1, to identify your emotions. What am I feeling? Because sometimes we don't even know what we're feeling. Am I mad? Am I feeling shame? Am I feeling discontent? Am I happy? Am I joyful? Am I elated? What is it that I'm feeling? And there's a rainbow of feelings out there. And they all usually come down to those 5 core emotions, which I spoke about, which is sadness, fear, anger, joy, and sexual energy. Those are the core emotions. But there are branches of them, yes? And so to become aware and have the language to identify how you're feeling is really important. If anyone is familiar with Brené Brown, she has a book. It's called The Atlas of the Heart. It's a thick book. It talks about every emotion you could ever feel in that book. And so it's good to become familiar with those different emotions so that we can identify, what am I feeling? And then the second, to move through the emotions, the second is to locate the emotion. And in the book, it actually has a picture of where emotions tend to live, like anger tends to live in your neck and shoulders. Fear tends to live in your stomach. So you can locate where the emotion is in your body. And then 3 is to notice what does it look like? Does it have texture? Does it have sensation? Just notice it. And it tells us that we can release an emotion in 90 seconds by doing these steps. Identify your emotion, locate it, notice a sensation, and then release it. Take a deep breath in and then maybe make a sound or something to release it out. And then you allowed it to move through you. It's a beautiful practice. And I'm going to add a caveat in there that the book doesn't talk about. Because when we're having emotions, like we said, it's often from the past, especially when it's called, I don't like to call them negative emotions, but that's in the group consciousness is that fear and anger are negative emotions. They're just emotions that we have. But usually those come up they're from the past, usually a childhood memory. And so I like to give that child what they wanted at the time. So if, say, I'm angry about someone didn't do something that I wanted them to do, and I'm having my anger as I'm noticing it, I just take a moment to love that hurt child that's really expressing themselves right now, right? It's really my hurt child expressing themselves. So I love the one who was hurt. I love the one who's afraid. I have compassion for the one, because as a child, we don't have a choice about who our parents are. We don't have a choice where we live, what schools we go to. So we're living the life that we don't even have a choice as to if we have parents, right, as a child. So we don't have a lot of choices. So there's a lot of pain that sometimes can happen because of the lack of choices that we have. So not that we're a victim of it, but just that we're aware that maybe we needed a little bit of support when I scraped my knee, or when I wasn't feeling heard as a child. So we love that child the way we want to be. So if you have that inner child who's angry, what would you say to them? Like, it's going to be okay. You're okay. It's okay to be angry. Wouldn't you love to hear that as a child? It's okay to be angry. Instead of, stop it. That's what I got, stop it. And our parents do the best that they can. My parents did too. There is no judgment or criticism. I'm a parent of 4 kids, let me tell you. That's not an easy job. I didn't see the fine print. But we are always doing the best that we can. So then, if we didn't get it as a child, then who's going to provide it to us to help us heal that part of us, to help us move through those emotions that we didn't know how to move through? We are our best cheerleader. We are our best compassionate love of ourself. That is, I think, one of our jobs, if you will, our calling is to love ourselves. Now, you've heard that, right? Self-love. Well, the action of self-love is when you're having those feelings of hurt, when you're having those feelings of anger, to give yourself some self-love. It's okay to be angry. I understand. You're going to be okay. And talk to yourself and give you what you wanted, what you would want someone to say. Because no one really knows what we need, right? Because it's all happening inside of us. No one really knows what we need, but we do. We do. We can give that to us. And so I just offer that as you're identifying your emotions and you're locating them, that you take a moment to give yourself some self-compassion before you release it. That you recognize that this is the hurt part of you and that you're honoring it. That you're honoring it. And then at that time, you take a deep breath and you let a sound out and you let it go. And that can take, like I said, 90 seconds. You can do it in the grocery store line. You can do it anywhere. No one knows what's going on. And you're healing yourself right then and there in the express lane. Isn't that amazing? Because it's such a short practice. And we can get better at it and better at it. Because when emotions get stuck in us, they start to become our mood, right? And if the anger can become bitterness, fear can become anxiety, and sadness can be apathy or resignation when they aren't moving, when they stay stuck, and we keep running the cycle of thoughts over and over in our head. And so this can last for a really long time. So I really honor my feelings, and I'm learning to move through them. Do I get stuck sometimes? Sure. We're human, right? We're human. But it's a practice, just like the meditation practices that we do. They help us move through. And meditation practice helps us stay in the now moment. When we become reactive, we are in the past. When we do our meditation practice, it helps us to take that pause so that we do not become reactionary, where we stay in the present moment. Because when we're in the present moment, we are not the hurt little child that is reacting. We are present right here in the adult form, with another adult or whatever the situation is. We are present. And so our meditation practice or yoga or whatever you do, sound bath, whatever you do that brings you present to the presence of God, like fulfills you, like you feel so full when you're finished, that is the practice that keeps you present, keeps you awake and alive with the presence of God in everyone and everything. And so I strongly encourage you to keep your meditation practice strong, your prayer practice, your yoga practice, whatever it is that keeps you in the present moment. And because we know we have the ability to respond or react. And react is when we're in the past. And so then when I do my meditation practice, it creates what I call the holy moment. And the holy moment is the moment when I remember who I am. I might have forgot who I am for a moment. We go unconscious, right? We forget. And then there's a holy moment where I remember, pause, breathe, remember the truth. And I remember who I am. I remember to identify, I'm angry right now. What is this? I start talking to myself to move things through. And for us to judge ourselves when we go unconscious, as we're judging the journey, how can we remember who we are if we don't forget? If we don't forget. And so that's the dance of being human. And so the charge to you is to remember as often as you can and as quickly as you can when you forget. When you forget, because you will, because life is going on in full color, is it not, out in the world, on social media, on the television? It's going on. And so it brings stuff up in us. And so when we can remember with our breath, okay, I remember who I am. I'm divine. Everything is divine. Let's move through this together. So I want to practice this right now with us so that we can start to build the muscle on how to move through our emotions, okay? So let's just sit up, put your feet on the ground, sit up nice and tall. And I want you to remember an emotional event. And don't pick the hardest one, okay? Pick something, a beginner's emotion. And it could be joy, it could be anger, it could be whatever you want that you might think is stuck in you right now. And I want you to identify that emotion. You can see the scenario that happened. And I want you to identify that emotion. Now that we've identified the emotion, I want you to locate the emotion in your body. Just kind of scan your body and notice where you're feeling that emotion. And once you've located the emotion, I want you to just see what it feels like, what it looks like. Maybe it has texture, color, shape, form. And in this moment, I want you to have compassion for yourself. I have compassion for the one who is feeling this emotion, and name the emotion. I have compassion for the one who is feeling this emotion. And then to release, we're going to take a deep breath and let a sound out. Just let any sound that comes. So let's take a deep breath together. Good. And then slowly open your eyes. So that took us about 1.5 to 2 minutes. Is it something that you think you can do? To remember? Yes. And once again, even if you may not remember it in the moment, sometimes if those emotions linger on, because we know they do, so once you become aware and remember who you are, because we can't do it when we're unconscious, right? Because we're in it. We're still in it. We're still stewing in it a little bit. And then once we remember who we are, sometimes that means we go for a walk and we remember who we are, or we just sing a song, whatever kind of gets us out of the cycle. And then we remember who we are, and then we can identify the emotion, locate the emotion, give it some texture, have some compassion, and release it with sound. And maybe what I'll do is I'll see if these can get sent out. Do you have a newsletter? Maybe I can email this and send it out in the newsletter so you can have it, so you can practice it, okay? Yes, let's all take another deep breath in together. Let out another sound. Yes, and we'll go into prayer. Yes, just knowing that there is only one God. God is all there is, everywhere, present in its entirety, in its wholeness, in its joy, in its love, in its peace. And knowing that this is true for God, I know this is true for each and every one who these words are falling upon their ears. I know this is the truth of who they are. That peace is the order of the day right here and right now, that each and every one of ourselves is filled and full of the peace of God, and knowing that love is the order of the day, and that each and every one of ourselves is filled with the love of God right here and right now, and that joy is the order of the day, knowing that each and every one of ourselves is filled with the joy of God. Absolutely, yes. And that if anyone here listening is having any struggles right now, I just know and accept right here that the solution is present right here in this moment as we open up to it. Each and every one of us open up to the solution for anyone struggling. Yes. And that the love of God is present in your life, even in the struggle. That God is in the struggle, that God is in our challenges, showing us the truth of who you are. I accept this right here and right now. I accept divine right order is in place. And I accept for Riverside Centers for Spiritual Living that the perfect right action for this building is occurring. The perfect right person, entity is present and is in love with this building and wants it right here and right now for the absolute perfect right price. I know that this community moves on with absolute joy, ease, and grace into its next expression of itself. I declare this to be so. I accept this to be true as we all declare together. And so it is. Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.